The security scanner blinked red 3 times before Administrator Vex-13 slammed his primary appendage against the console. Another malfunction. That made 6 this cycle alone, and its central command found out he had been approving bypasses instead of filing proper maintenance reports. Well, his career would end faster than a meteor hitting atmosphere. What now? He muttered, his vocal sacs deflating in frustration. The display flickered, showing a biological readout that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Vex leaned closer, his compound eye suggesting to read the fine text scrolling past. Species classification, Precursor. Threat level, Omega Black. Recommended action, immediate containment and notification of the High Council. He laughed. Actually laughed. A wheezing, clicking sound that echoed through the empty customs hall of Station 17, the most boring posting in the entire Galactic Union. Precursors. Right. And tomorrow he would sprout wings and fly through hard vacuum. The Precursors had been extinct for 3 million years, give or take a few millennia. Everyone knew that. They had built the ancient gates that connected half the civilized galaxy, seeded dozens of species with the genetic potential for intelligence, and then vanished without a trace. Every schoolchild learned about them. Every treasure hunter wasted their lives searching for precursor artifacts. And every charlatan in the trade lanes claimed to have precursor DNA for sale, but none of it was real. It was all myth, legend, bedtime stories for larvae. Vex was about to override the system when the airlock cycle opened with a pressurized hiss. The creature that walked through was small. Laughably small. It stood on 2 legs, had bilateral symmetry, and wore a patched environmental suit that had seen better decades. Its face was visible through a transparent helmet, showing flat features, forward-facing eyes, and a complete lack of sensory antennae or protective carapace. Pathetic, really. Hello? The creature said, its voice translated through the universal communicator on its chest. Male designation, according to the readout. Is this the customs checkpoint? I have been standing in that airlock for 10 minutes. Vex ignored him, staring at the scanner display. The readings had not changed. Precursor. Omega Black. His stomach analog twisted into knots. Excuse me. The human tried again, waving one of its weird 5-fingered appendages. I just need to register for trade permissions. I am hoping to sell some salvage I picked up near the outer markers. Do not move, Vex said flatly, reaching for the security alert button beneath his desk. The human stopped mid-step, hands raised in what the database suggested was a peaceful gesture among its species. Whoa, okay, no problem. Is something wrong with my documents? Because I swear they are legitimate. I paid good credits for those. Your documents are irrelevant. Vex kept one eye on the creature while activating the containment field generator. You are under arrest by authority of the Galactic Union Security Directorate, Section 9, Subsection 42, Paragraph. Actually, I do not remember the exact paragraph, but trust me, this is very illegal. What is illegal? Standing here. The human lowered his hands slightly, confusion evident in his facial features. Look, if this is about parking fees, I can pay those. I know I left my ship in a loading zone, but there were no other spaces available and I figured 5 minutes would not matter. The containment field shimmered to life, a barrier of pale blue energy that surrounded the human in a cylinder of crackling force. Standard procedure for Omega Black threats, though Vex had never actually used one before. In fact, he had barely glanced at the manual during training. The human looked down at the field, then back up at Vex. Okay, this seems like an overreaction. You are a precursor, Vex announced, trying to sound official and commanding instead of terrified and confused. There was a long pause, then the human started laughing. It was not the polite, controlled laughter of civilized beings. It was loud, unrestrained, the kind of noise that made Vex antennae flatten against his skull in sympathetic embarrassment. The human actually bent forward, gripping his knees, shoulders shaking with mirth. I am sorry, the human finally gasped, wiping moisture from his eyes. I am sorry, but did you just say I am a precursor? Like, the Precursors? The ancient vanished super race that everyone thinks built half the galaxy. The scanner does not lie, Vex said defensively, though his confidence was rapidly evaporating. Your scanner is broken, friend. The human tapped the containment field experimentally, jerking his hand back when it sparked. Oh. Okay, that one is working fine. But seriously, I am just a human. Homo sapiens. From Earth. We only figured out faster than light travel about 40 years ago. We are nobody special. Vex checked his database. Human. Yes, there they were. Newly contacted species from Sector 7 Gamma. Technological level 3. No significant achievements. Average intelligence. Mediocre physical capabilities. Notable only for their alarming reproduction rate and tendency to argue about everything, nothing special at all. So why was the scanner insisting this ordinary, forgettable creature was a precursor? The scanner has never malfunctioned before, Vex lied, conveniently forgetting the 6 other errors just this cycle. Well, congratulations, there is a first time for everything. The human crossed his arms, which apparently signaled annoyance in his species. Can you let me out now? I really do have salvage to sell, and the merchant I am meeting will not wait forever. Vex was about to respond when his communicator chirped. Incoming call. Priority 1. From Central Command, his blood analog turned cold. Administrator Vex-Thirteen. The voice was crisp, female designated, and carried the kind of authority that made junior bureaucrats wet themselves. This is Director Kaine of Xenobiology Research. We have detected an Omega Black alert from your station. Confirm status immediately. Vex's mandibles clicked together nervously. Yes, Director. There has been a, situation. Describe the situation, Administrator. He glanced at the human, who was now examining his fingernails with apparent boredom. A lone traveler triggered the precursor protocol. The scanner indicates well, it indicates he is a precursor. Silence on the other end. Then, a precursor. Singular. Alive. Yes, Director. And you have this being in custody. Contained in a standard Omega Black field, yes. More silence. Vex could hear whispered conversation in the background, urgent and excited. We are dispatching a research team immediately. Do not, under any circumstances, release that being. Do not communicate with it beyond basic commands. Do not allow it access to station systems. Do you understand, Administrator? I understand, but, Director, I think there might be a mistake. The being claims to be human, and the database confirms I do not care what the being claims. Vex-13. Precursor genetics are adaptive, designed to infiltrate and mimic local species. If your scanner identified it as precursor, then it is precursor. Period. We will arrive in 6 hours. Maintain containment. Director Kaine out. The call ended. Vex stared at the communicator, then at the human, who had apparently heard the entire conversation through his suit's audio pickups. So, the human said slowly, I am guessing you are not going to let me leave. Not a chance. And a research team is coming to what? Study me. Dissect me. I would assume study first, dissect later if necessary. The human nodded thoughtfully. Right. Okay. Well, this day has officially gone sideways. Despite everything, despite the insanity of the situation and the career-ending implications if he had actually captured a real precursor, or the equally career-ending implications if he had not, Vex found himself almost sympathetic. The human looked genuinely distressed now, his earlier humor fading into worry. What is your name? Vex asked, surprising himself. The human blinked. Jake. Jake Morrison. Freelance salvager, terrible luck apparently. I am Administrator Vex-Thirteen. And for what it is worth, Jake Morrison, I hope this is all just a massive computer error. Jake laughed weakly. You and me both, buddy. The next 6 hours passed with excruciating slowness. Vex filed 17 different reports, all variations of the same information. Jake alternated between pacing within his containment field, sitting cross-legged on the floor, and asking questions that Vex was not supposed to answer but did anyway because the silence was unbearable. So the precursors really existed? Jake asked during hour 3. According to historical records, yes. They were the first species to achieve level 7 technology. They built structures that still function after millions of years. They modified the evolutionary path of dozens of species, pushing them toward intelligence. Vex paused. And then they vanished. No bodies, no records, no explanation. Just gone. That is terrifying and sad at the same time. Most scholars believe they achieved some form of transcendence. Left physical reality behind. Jake made a face. Or they blew themselves up. That is what species tend to do when they get too powerful. At least according to Earth history. Cheerful thought. Hey, I am the one in the containment field facing vivisection. I am allowed to be pessimistic. By hour 5, 3 more security personnel had arrived, surrounding Jake's containment field with weapons drawn. By hour 5.5, the station commander herself had appeared, a towering Valkyrian with scales that shimmered purple in the artificial light. She said nothing, just stared at Jake like he was a bomb waiting to explode. Jake stared back. So, is everyone just going to watch me now? Because this is getting creepy. The station commander's tail swished dangerously but she remained silent. When the research team finally arrived, they came with enough equipment to stock a small laboratory. Director Kaine was exactly as intimidating as her voice suggested. Tall, gray-skinned, with too many joints in her arms and eyes that seemed to see through solid matter. She wore the deep blue robes of a senior xenobiologist and carried herself with absolute confidence. She approached the containment field, circled it once, twice, examining Jake from every angle. Fascinating, she murmured. Jake waved awkwardly. Hi. I am Jake. Still not a precursor. Director Kaine ignored him completely. Run a full genetic scan. I want chromosomal mapping, protein sequencing, and mitochondrial analysis. Compare it against every precursor sample in the database. Her team moved with practiced efficiency, setting up scanners around the containment field. Lights played across Jake's body, and he flinched but held still. This is so weird, he muttered. The scans took an hour. The analysis took another 30 minutes. Director Kaine studied the results on a holographic display, her expression unreadable. Finally, she looked up. Administrator Vex-Thirteen, she said quietly, you have just made the most significant discovery in 3 million years. Vex's hearts both stopped. He is actually a precursor. No. Director Kaine smiled, thin and sharp. But his genetic code contains 97% correlation with precursor-based sequences. He is not a precursor. He is descended from them. Jake's face went pale. I am sorry, what? Humans, Director Kaine continued, her voice rising with excitement, are the direct evolutionary descendants of the precursor species. Your entire race is what remained after they vanished. You are the answer to the greatest mystery in galactic history. The room erupted into chaos. Researchers shouting questions, security personnel reaching for weapons, the station commander demanding explanations. And in the center of it all, trapped in his containment field, Jake Morrison stood frozen in shock. Oh, he finally said. Oh, This is bad. This is so bad.